Hey guys, today we're in the book of 2 Samuel chapter 8. Now that David is king and he is moving forward, now we get to see the blessings of being a good king. We start out with David defeating the Philistines. And just notice there, he says he took Metheg-ammah out of the hand of the Philistines. Now, you don't know that, but you do. It's known as Gath. Anywhere else, which was one of the major 5 Philistine cities, right? This is where Goliath came from. It just goes by several names. So it's Gath. So he took one of the major cities out of the Philistines' hands. Not only did he defeat the Philistines, but he defeated the Moabs, the Moabites. And so, but notice it says that he stretched some string and there was a line that to be spared. God wasn't wiping out every enemy of Israel. Okay, he was leaving some people around, but notice what he's doing. He's leaving people so that what? They can be, they become servants to David and brought tribute. Which means they brought money, they brought spoils. And so here, though this chapter tells us a lot about David's victory, David's conquering, you got to think David is the king. And so he's just a manifestation of all of Israel, right? So all of these people are not coming just to be servants of David. They're coming to be servants of Israel. They're not coming to bring tribute just to David. They're coming to bring tribute to Israel. And so David is used here metaphorically as all of Israel. And so once again, going back to the law, back to Deuteronomy, now that Israel is doing well, the Lord is blessing Israel. And he's blessing them through David because David is doing right. And Israel is doing right in the eyes of the Lord. So they're being blessed. Not only that, but we can see in verse 3 as they go out to the river Euphrates, the Euphrates River, which is an interesting point because we see God telling Abraham all the way back in Genesis that his land will go into the Euphrates River. And now, for the first time ever, is Israel that big? It stretches all the way eastward to the Euphrates River. And so they do that. They go and they hamstring all the chariot horses, right? Which means they cut their legs to release that muscle just so the horses can't walk. This is not animal cruelty. This is not being mean. This means he is disabling the entire military, okay? That's ultimately what it means. And so he leaves 100 of the chariots, enough to do his work. And then when the Assyrians of Damascus come to help, what happens? So here we just see he defeats the Philistines, the Moabites, the Syrians, and all the people around Syria, which is north of Israel. And he takes them over, but he doesn't defeat them all. Once again, they become servants and they bring tribute. We can see this over and over again. Not only that, verse 7, he takes the shields of gold that were carried by the servants of Hadaezer. And so you could imagine shields of gold, right? This isn't necessarily an instrument of war. This is a trophy. This is something that would walk before the army. And the light coming off of them would have been like, oh, right? Would have been amazing. And so this would tell the army that they're marching against, hey, we've won so much money in battles, so many spoils that we have golden laid shields, right? We're better than you. And so David takes these, he takes the trophy away from the Syrians, and what does he do? It says he takes them to Jerusalem, which really means he took them to the Lord. He took them to the tabernacle. And this is going to be some of the gold that Solomon will use to make the temple in a later date. So he takes the trophies away from Syria. And then if that's not good enough, I mean, this is amazing, right? Philistines, the Moabites. So he beats those on the west. That's the Philistines. He beats the Moabites. Those are on the east. He beats the Syrians, which is north. And now you're starting to see in verse 9 that the king is sending his own sons. All the kings around that here are saying, hey, David is untouchable. He is mighty. This is amazing. And so they're sending their sons to say, hey, go to David's palace and be raised up under David. David is the best king. Learn what he's doing. Learn his military. See what he's doing. And so a lot of times, most kings would have an orphanage of kids from other kings to be raised up so that they would learn the art of war. They would learn the art of negotiation, engineering, administration, all the things that kings did at that time. And so all the kings of the world sent their kids to Jerusalem to learn under David, to live in his palace. And so we can see they continue to go on, but once again, verse 11, the King David dedicated to the Lord, and together with silver and gold he dedicated from all the nations, Edom, Moab, the Ammon, Philistines, the Amalekites, and even the Syrians with the king of Zobah. And so here, as he defeated and as Israel spread everything that he did not put in David's treasury, he put into the treasury of the Lord. He knew that all of this was happening because the Lord was blessing. It's not by David's power, it was by the Lord's power. And he was very confident in that, and so much that he didn't even keep the spoils of the war. He gave them to the Lord, which the Lord will use with Solomon in the next book, right? And so David made a name for himself. He returned from striking down the Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He put garrisons, he put military bases in Edom, which is to the southeast. And he does all of this, and the Edomites became David's servants, and the Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. What a phrase, right? Wherever David went, the Lord gave him victory. The Lord gave him win. Why? Because he had the right heart. But David did not do this alone. And this is just another piece of information that we see David's heart, that it wasn't just the king of David. We see here in Scripture that there were other people. It's not just a leader who leads, but the people who come along the leader that help. And we see their names, right? You have Joab, Jehoshaphat, Zadok, Amalek, Serara, Benaiah, right? So all these people, kind of like this, kind of the staff of the White House, right? The president does a lot, but there's a lot of people in the background doing a lot of things. So when the president stands up and does something, it's because these guys have been working on it forever. It's the same thing, right? It's the White House staff. But notice it says that Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were priests. And so what's interesting here is we haven't seen yet, and it gets fleshed out a little bit more in the book of Chronicles, but the Cherethites and the Pelethites, these are hired soldiers. These are soldiers from the island of Crete. Okay, this is where the Philistines came from, right? And so he hired these soldiers to come over, right? Israel is going, he has an army, he has mighty men, but Israel's growing at such a pace, he needs a hired military. And so he put some of his people over them. And so it just tells us instantly in just one chapter, the abundance in which Israel is growing, the money they have, the power they have, the physical growing of the space of Israel. You can just see how much Israel is booming in this. And so once again, though David is doing all of this, it is really the Lord is doing it. And David is making sure that he's giving the Lord all the things and all of the spoils and all of the money and all of the accolades. He's giving it to the Lord. He's not letting his head get too big, which is a good place for any Christian, but especially for a king. Completely opposite of the king of Saul, right? You got to think, this is not that the Lord is just blessing David. The Lord wanted to bless Saul in this same manner. He spoke to Saul about this, but Saul would not follow the heart of God. It's our spiritual aptitude, our faith that will increase the blessings of God, or they will bring curses upon us from God, right? And so David is open and willing, and the Lord is doing exactly what he promised in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. He will bless those who love him, who go after him, who walk in his ways, and he will curse those who do not. And we see that. He cursed Saul, and he's blessing David. Hope that makes a little bit more sense. We will see you tomorrow in chapter 9. God bless.